Greetings, my little ghosties and ghoulies. I'm Fox, any pronouns, and it's time for another Treat or Terror with Treehouse of Horror XIII. We've finally reached the spooky number, and also the first Treehouse of Horror to actually be called that, instead of just Simpsons Halloween special. Let's get to it. We open on a seance to contact Maud Flanders.
Are you ready for tales that will shatter your spine and boil your blood?
Well, duh.
Then choke on these!
From that spectacular opening, we go into our first segment with Send In the Clones. After getting a new hammock, Homer realizes spinning in it clones him. The clones are, for the most part, barely sentient, and Homer uses them as slaves, doing his chores, denying them simple things like beers, belittling them, making them spend time with Marge, only to step in for the sex. Things are going great for Homer, until one of his clones beheads Ned. Panicked, he decides to abandon them all in a cornfield, along with the hammock. The clones make a full-blown army that ravages Springfield, gathering the attention of the U.S. Army. Using giant donuts hanging from helicopters, the clones are led to a gorge, where they all fall to their doom. The problem seems to be fixed, until Marge realizes the Homer in bed with her has no belly button. He's a clone.
My homie's dead? How will I go on?
You like back rub?
Oh, well.
Okay, this one's not bad. Definitely more silly than spooky, but the ending tickles me. It still holds up as a good, amusing segment. Second up is The Fright to Creep and Scare Harms. This title is very silly. I like it. Lisa gets inspired by a gravestone that says, "I dream of a world without guns." She manages to convince the rest of Springfield to ditch their dangerous projectile weaponry, which causes the corpses of the Hole in the Ground gang to rise up from the graves. It turns out that the grave she had read belonged to Billy the Kid. Professor Fink whips up a time machine and decides Homer is the best one to send back in time to stop everyone from giving up their guns. Somehow it works, and they all shoot the undead out of town.
I guess guns really are the answer.
Suddenly a future Homer appears, warning about how guns have destroyed Earth, only for Moe to shoot him and go back in time for some caveman hookers. This one is okay. Not offensive, but pretty forgettable. I don't even have much to say about it, honestly. It gave a couple of chuckles, but lasted way too long. I will say it's easy to notice the similarities between this and The Monkey's Paw, where Lisa wished for world peace, then once all Earth's weapons are destroyed, aliens invade. Our final segment is The Island of Dr. Hibbert, an obvious parody of The Island of Dr. Moreau by H.G. Wells. The family travels to the Island of Lost Souls, where Dr. Hibbert is running a resort. It's a lovely place, with fine dining and eyeballs in the dark that eat each other. Turns out Hibbert has been manipulating DNA and making people into human-animal hybrids. He captures Marge while she's snooping around, turning her into a panther woman. Listen, I'm not going to mince words with you. Cat Marge is hot as fuck. Someone working on this episode was a furry. Good for them, and thank you from the bottom of my little puppet heart. Homer goes looking for a cure, like a coward, and stumbles on Flanders. He's a cowman now.
Milk me!
Homer milking Ned is incredibly funny all around. The pair find a whole slew of hybrid folks, and we get to see so many fun furry designs. Anteater Maggie is adorable. Flamingo Smithers is another favorite. Something about the look just works for him. My favorite has to be little Rue Skinner, though. It's so good. Homer tries to rile them all up into revolting against Dr. Hibbert. As they're starting to come around, however, Hibbert arrives and smooth-talks them, telling them how much better off they are now. And surprisingly, they all agree. Homer gives a big speech about how all they can do is eat and sleep and mate, and interrupts himself to ask where he can sign up. It ends with the furries just chilling at the resort, having a good time. Then King and Kodo show up to close things off. Not gonna lie, this is my favorite of the three. It's actually pretty funny. It has a lot of fun background details like what animal everyone is. And frankly, the twist ending is just great. Yeah, I love it. Panther March is so hot. Overall, a decent Treehouse. Middle segment was lacking, yes, but the Clones episode was amusing, and this one is just mwah, chef's kiss. Overall, a decent Treehouse. Middle segment was lacking, yes, but the Clones episode was amusing, and this last one is just mwah, chef's kiss. So I learned that this episode is the first Treehouse and fourth overall episode to use digital ink and paint, as opposed to traditional cell animation. Now, I do love traditional cell animation, but honestly, without knowing this, I would have never realized. The episode looks good. And after this digital ink was how they did the show. There's still Simpsons charm here art-wise. They didn't immediately go out of their way to make it too clean and crisp. And that's all I've got for this year's Treehouse of Horror. I'll see you tomorrow for another. Thanks for joining my lucid screaming.